Friends, this is going to be a big one. This is going to take some time. Settle in, get a cup of coffee or whatever, and I'm going to take you through a little journey. This is the review of the Klipsch Cornwall IV. I've had this speaker around here since September. I did a quick preview back then, and I've been collecting my thoughts since, and actually I'm going to insert some videos that I made along the way, real quick things, just impressions along the way of this journey of living with this very, very large speaker. It's a horn speaker, as you can tell, right? And I'm in my horn period right now. I started a couple of years ago with a little tiny Klipsch, the 51M, $250 little bookshelf speaker, and that just somehow really clicked with me. That one led to the Klipsch RP600M, a little stand mount speaker. Loved that speaker. It is now $629 a pair. It is absolutely an incredible speaker. So if you want to get into horns and you don't have a lot of money, start there, and I promise you, you won't have any regrets. So after that, I did the Klipsch Forte, which is nearly as big as this. I'm going to show you right now the size difference between them. That one is now $4,000 a pair, and this one here is $6,000 a pair. They're made in the US. They're made in Arkansas. They have a 1-inch titanium compression tweeter mounted in a Tractrix horn. That's this little horn up here. And the mid-range is a 1.75-inch polyimide driver mounted in this Tractrix horn. And below here is a 15-inch fiber composite woofer. It is a ported design. The ports are in the bottom. I'm going to show you a close-up of that now. They're a rather unusual looking port. I've never seen anything quite like it except on other Klipsch speakers. But the thing about living with a speaker this big is you're very aware of its size, of its gravitas. So much so that when I had to push these aside to review other smaller speakers, it took a period of recalibration of my brain because they sounded really small. Once you get used to something this big, it's kind of like, I'm not happy with this comparison, but it's kind of like the Cadillac of speakers. It just cruises along, man. It just rolls. It doesn't care what you throw at it. And you go to a smaller speaker and you feel how much smaller it is, how the music is being squeezed through a smaller, well, portal, let's put it that way, right? Oh, before I forget to mention it, it weighs 100 pounds. It has very high sensitivity of 102 dB for 1 watt. It's an 8 ohm speaker. It comes in your choice of black ash, walnut, or cherry. This one is cherry. I think the cherry finish is really, really nice. They come with grills, very nice grills. But I prefer my speakers natural. I just want to see the drivers. Of course, if you don't cover them up with the grills, that works too. The quickest way to describe the sound of this speaker, or any Klipsch speaker, or pretty much any good horn speaker, is to have a live quality to the sound. It's like this is happening right now. The music that you're hearing that was recorded, 6 months ago or 6 years ago or 6 decades ago, it's happening right now. It just connects music to the listener in that way, that immediate way. But that's not to say that this is a perfect speaker. I would say the things that I would cite right off the bat is it may not be the smoothest, most flat frequency response kind of speaker, which honestly I tend to find those rather boring or just not terribly engaging. So given a choice between accurate and engaging, I'm on the engaging side pretty much 100% of the time. That's me personally, and I'm just giving you a personal reaction to the sound of this speaker. But in terms of me trying to be an impartial reporter of what I'm hearing here, that's what I'm getting out of this speaker. It's not about accuracy, it is about fun and engagement. That's what it does well. It's not to say that it doesn't measure well. I don't know what the measurements are, and you know what? I don't particularly care. I could tell you the tweeter, because a lot of people just jump on Klipsch tweeters and say that they're bright or harsh or edgy. I don't find it so at all. Now, one of the things that's interesting about these speakers is that they're horn speakers, meaning they are very directional. They're pushing the sound forward, right? There's less of the sound reflecting off the floor, off the sidewalls, if you have even your sidewalls. So the sound is tunable by how much of that direct sound you're getting. So if you want them to be their most laid back and softest, you just fire them straight ahead. So you'll be listening basically off axis from them, and you will get less highs. As you tow them in and aim them more directly towards the listening position, the brighter the sound will be. And by the way, the better the focus, the imaging focus. Now, I think that their center focus for vocals, usually in the center, is really, really good. But I think their overall sound stage is not particularly sharp or clear or defined. It's not bad, it's just not a strength of the design. The sound stage depth, well, it's not one of those that goes back very far in terms of depth, but in terms of coming forward of the plane of the speakers, I think that Cornwalls actually do that quite well. In terms of them, let's just say, disappearing as sound sources, well, no. They're very large speakers. They're not going to disappear. I guess if you got far enough away from them, like, I don't know, 20 feet or so, they would start to just blend away. But I'm listening to them from about 10 feet away. And at that point, at that distance, I definitely am aware of their presence in the room. That's the way it is. If you want speakers that disappear, then you shouldn't buy big box speakers. Now, as you might expect, a speaker this size, and by the way, it's 38 inches high, can play loud with ease. With ease, certainly compared to much smaller speakers. It has incredible dynamics, life, as I pointed out already. But the thing that you might not expect is that it can play very, very quietly, really, really well. Yeah, the loud part you would expect, but the quiet part, like I've listened to this speaker on many, many nights at very quiet levels. I didn't want to disturb my wife in the other room, or certainly my neighbors. And I played them very quietly, and they still have that engagement factor when played at hushed levels. So speaking of size, and with a 15-inch woofer, you might expect it to make a lot of bass, and it does. It does make a lot of bass, and I wouldn't say the bass is necessarily the fastest or deepest even, but it does have a sort of palpability. It has weight, that is for sure. You definitely feel the scale of the bass more from this speaker than you do from much smaller, bookshelf speakers, stand-mount speakers, or even skinny tower speakers. The sound has gravitas. It feels big. Therefore, it sounds closer to the sound of real live music. I'm gonna take a little break here and insert a couple of videos that I shot along the way that cover certain aspects of the sound, and then I'm going to come right back. So for this portion of the Cornwall review, I'm going to do some comparisons with the Klipsch Forte III, speaker that I lived with for a long time, many months, got a good handle on its sound. So the first recording I grabbed was this one, and I was present for the session. This is Explorations in Space and Time, recorded in a large church in Brooklyn, and big bass drums, the kind that you hit like that, and timpanis, and a drum kit, and lots of percussion with a little subtle sounds and everything. A lot of stuff going on, little bells. So anyway, I played it, and I played some of the big heavy-hitting parts, and the difference in power, delivery between the Cornwall and the Forte was huge, absolutely earth-shakingly huge. It's the most powerful sound I've ever had in this apartment that wasn't generated by stacks of subwoofers. So the recording is uncompressed, unprocessed. As far as I know, no EQ was applied, and to hear that level of power delivery over this speaker was really extraordinary, really truly thrilling. Each bass whack was so distinct, so clear, so fully formed. It was truly startling. I was playing it far louder than I normally would. I'm not a loud kind of guy, but yeah, it was thrilling. I was concerned for my neighbors be pounding on the walls. But luckily that didn't happen. I did it in the afternoon. No one was home. So that was really a treat. Returning to the Forte, well, the Forte, same recording, same loudness, was less so. The same but less. It just had less impact, less fullness, less articulation. It seemed like it was struggling to do what the Cornwall did with ease. That's a way to describe it. Yeah, one was ease, and one was like, yeah, we're going to get there. It's going to take a little extra push to get that level of impact and power. So it wasn't just the big drums, also those bells, those tinkly things, the gong. Over the Cornwall, they sounded rounder, less bright, less pushed, less aggressive. They kind of pulled back a little bit. They weren't popping out of the mix as much. So I think the treble is actually really good, but I don't want to give the wrong impression. It's not as pure and transparent as what I got from any number of magnepans that I've had through here over the last few years. So the Cornwall treble is good and not aggressive like some people describe Klipsch treble. I don't think so, but it lacks that last degree of purity that I get from a magnepan or an electrostatic speaker. That it's not gonna give you that. But of course, those speakers can give you the impact and nuance of dynamics that are possible through the Cornwall. Next up was Frank Sinatra. When I want to hear a male vocal at its best, I go for Sinatra. I didn't used to like Sinatra. Now in my declining years, yes, Sinatra speaks to me, and his recording, Only the Lonely, that's the name of the album, is just staggering how amazing it sounds, but also his performances are just extraordinary. And I played it on the Forte. Sinatra was there. He was in the room. He sounded really good, really, really, really good. But when I moved to the Cornwall, it just opened up. It just was less like sound coming from a box and more that there was no box. It's kind of weird. It's such a big box. Today, it's all about the groove. The speaker communicates rhythm and groove and funk and movement like nothing else I've ever lived with here. There's a vitality to the sound. So actually, I've been switching things around. I've been going between the 1st Watt J2, the 1st Watt F7, and the Past Labs XA25 power amps. The front end is the same for all of these, which is a Past Labs XP30 preamp, a Denafreps Terminator DAC, and the J's Audio, the J's Audio CD2 Mark II CD transport. And so anyway, I was just listening to this record, the Sex Mob. This is amazing. And what's incredible, it's a funk jazz record, but the way this record was made, I believe, is that the band played, and then in the mixer basically deconstructed the album. So he was sampling the band itself to create these loops and grooves and things. It's really, really good. I played it on many, many systems over the years, but it's never sounded this alive, this funky. It has this energy to it and space and depth, especially on the 1st Watt F7. It just opens it up. There's space, there's the interaction of the players. It's really incredible. But again, I think I've said this in one of the other videos about the Cornwall IV, is it does jazz so well because you hear that interplay of all the musicians. Again, like nothing else I've ever had here, including the Klipsch Forte IIIs. The Cornwall IV takes it to a completely different level. But fundamentally, I think what's going on is It's the way this speaker reproduces the sound of voice. Voice just sounds more correct, more right, more alive, more human, has more body, more depth. It just sounds more like it's supposed to be. We in life, we hear voices all the time. We don't hear pianos or guitars or saxophones necessarily every day, right? But we hear voices all the time. We know what voices are supposed to sound like. That's a given. But yet most speakers miniaturize the sound of voice. I mean, it's kind of weird. I get it, miniaturizing the sound of a piano or an orchestra, yeah. But even vocals sound less body to them. There's less there with the sound of vocals through most speakers. This speaker it doesn't have a problem with that. It just lets it come through. Voices sound more correct, more like real life than I'm used to hearing. And that's a thrill. As I said earlier, this review is going to be done in sections. So I'm done for today. Let's get on to the next part. So I'm back now in real time, so to speak. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but one of the things that's really appealing about the sound is how each instrument in a mix and each vocal in a mix sounds more distinct, more separate from everything else that's happening in the mix. And I find that hugely appealing. It's more like the way music sounds in real life. I was thinking about this when I was listening to the new 50th anniversary edition of the Beatles' Abbey Road. And they've gone back to the multi-tracks, so we're not hearing through generations of loss of different mixing sessions. And the distinctness of Ringo's drums in particular, and Paul's bass and the vocals, they just pop out of the mix much better than they did before. That is really, really something. Amy Winehouse, oh God, I really miss her. She was so incredible, and the sound of her vocals and what she puts into those vocals, her star power, but her pain, her suffering, whatever, it's really just blasting through over these speakers. You just feel more. That connection to the artist is so much stronger through these speakers than it is through other speakers, including the smaller Klipsch's, even like the Forte. It is like a Klipsch Forte on steroids. It's just got more of everything about that makes the Forte great, but this takes it up a couple of notches. Definitely worth the difference in price. One other big surprise is recordings with limited dynamic range, very compressed recordings. They sound, more dynamically alive through these speakers. The annoyance factor of heavily compressed music is less so over these speakers. Why that is, I can't say. But I noticed the effect again and again that heavily compressed music, it just doesn't bother me as much over these speakers. And again, I didn't see that coming. I'm really happy to report that. I also spent some time comparing the Cornwalls against the Pure Audio Project Trio 15 Classic. Now that's an even more expensive speaker. Those are $10,000 a pair. They're much taller. They have two 15-inch drivers per speaker, so 4 altogether. And it wasn't even that speaker just made more bass. It was faster, clearer. Some of the best sound I've ever heard in this room came from those Trio 15s. Great, great speaker. And they were also more open sounding than the Cornwall IV. They had better soundstage depth. They did a bunch of things better than these speakers, but they cost $10,000 a pair. They're $4,000 a pair more than the Cornwalls, and they're dipoles, so they have a lot of sound. Most of their sound, the sound is evenly distributed. The sound coming forward from the speaker and the sound coming out of the back. It's no box. It's an open baffle speaker, so they're more difficult to place and get to sound right. The Klipsch Cornwall IV. It's a heck of a speaker. It's big. I think it's beautiful. I like big speakers. It sounds big. It's alive. It communicates music on a higher level than most speakers that I've experienced, certainly this year. Size does matter. I think that is one of the messages of this review is big speakers just have advantages over smaller, skinnier, more lifestyle-oriented speakers, if you will. Sorry, it just works out that way. So I think my work here is at last complete. My name is Steve Guttenberg. This is the Audiophiliac Daily Show, and I do have a special announcement if you've gotten this far in the video. I'm coming up to 100,000 subscribers. That'll probably happen in early January. And hey, I'm just a guy talking to a camera. It's you. It's you people out there that are making this channel a success. So my thanks go out to all of you. I hope you have a great holiday season. I hope you have a great new year. 2020 is going to be, I just have this feeling, an even better year for audio and most things. So let's keep our fingers crossed. If you like what I'm doing, please subscribe. Be part of that push to 100,000 subscribers. Hit that button right down there. And when you do, hit it again. You'll see there's a little notification bell, a little bell thing. Click on that and you'll be notified when there's a new episode coming up. Check out the playlists. There's playlists for speaker reviews, headphone reviews, amplifier reviews, music review, all kinds of stuff in there. Oh, and I don't say this enough, but please share these videos. That would also help out a lot. And yeah, I think we're good. You can follow me on Facebook at Audiophiliac Man. You can follow me on Instagram at steve.guttenberg. And let's see. Oh, one more thing. You can check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/audiophiliac. And as always, and more than ever, thank you so much for watching. And I hope to see you back here again real soon.